Hi, good evening, everybody. Um, I'm so glad you were all able to join us tonight. And respect of everybody's time, we're going to go ahead and get started here at 7 o'clock. My name is Sandy Hunter. I am the College and Career Specialist at Lake Braddock. And I am excited to have our 5 panelists here and the College and Career Specialist from South County. We're going to take a minute and let them introduce themselves. And there we go. Holly.
Hi, good evening. I'm Holly Beal. I'm the College and Career Specialist at South County High School. I want to say thank you to everyone for joining us tonight. And I do want to let you know that we are recording this. So if for any reason you can't stay on for the whole call, it will be recorded and I'll be sending it out in the next couple of days. Thanks.
Good evening, I'm Mandy Weaver, and I'm the regional recruiter at West Virginia University. And I will tell you a little bit about WVU just to kick us off here. We're located in Morgantown, West Virginia, our main campus, and then we have a couple of branch campuses, one in the eastern panhandle of the state and one in the southern part of the state. At our main campus, we have about 24,000 total students now. They come from everywhere in the US and over 100 different countries. We offer everything from agriculture to medicine at the university with about 140 undergraduate majors and 150 minors. And we're a state public flagship institution. And I'm happy to be here with you this evening. Thank you.
Okay, excuse me. I'm Colin Alford. I am an outreach and recruitment coordinator with Northern Virginia Community College. Some of you may be familiar with the college. We do have 6 campuses across the Northern Virginia region. We have over 180 different countries represented on our campus with about 70,000 students. That tends to scare folks, but we try to remind everybody that includes not only our physical campuses, but our online campuses as well. We have a very robust transfer program. A lot of our students go to the schools that are also represented here this evening, and we look forward to sharing additional information and working with you and your students.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Kirk. I'm an admissions counselor here at Old Dominion University. We are located in Norfolk, Virginia, about 3 hours south of you guys up in Northern Virginia. Here at ODU, we have about 19,000 undergraduate students, as well as we are an R1 accredited research institution. So if you're interested in getting involved in research, we are a top tier research institution in the nation. We also graduate the second most engineers in the state of Virginia and have over 100 different majors for our students to choose from.
Hi, everyone. My name is Olivia Kitt, and I'm an admissions counselor here at Randolph-Macon. We are located in Ashland, Virginia, which is about 20 minutes outside of the Richmond area, which has been named in the top 10 coolest cities in the country, which is pretty cool, I must say. We are a small but mighty campus. We have about 1,500 students here, mostly represented from Virginia, but also 15 other states and about 20 different countries represented here on our campus. We are have about 55 different majors and minors for students to choose from, and definitely always encourage you all to visit us. Can't wait to talk to you more.
And good evening. My name is Pat Money. I'm the Director of Admissions at Mason. We are either 7 or 15 miles away from most of you, so we are down the road. But for those of you that have been to campus for an event at Eagle Bank Arena, you might not know that Mason is the largest public in the Commonwealth of Virginia. When you look at the 140 plus majors we offer, you are looking at an institution that houses the second most students in the state, but we have also a 72,000 median starting salary. So you all are where the money is already. So that's something where you're going to see Mason talk about experiential learning anytime I'm at your schools. But looking forward to chatting with you all tonight, and I will hopefully see you at my next stop at either of these high schools.
Okay, I think that is our introductions. So we will get started. The first panelist.
Okay, that's me. I'm gonna share my screen with you guys. Hopefully you can see that okay. Okay, so I'm going to talk with you about a few different topics tonight, but the first thing is the importance of junior year grades and the SAT and the ACT. So when you apply for admission, your transcript is going to show, your cumulative GPA and all of your completed coursework from grades 9 through 11 only. We're going to see what courses you're enrolled in for your senior year, but we're not going to have any grades yet. So the junior year is really important because it's the last full year of coursework that we'll see in order to, help us make a decision. So definitely end your junior year on a strong note so we can see all of the fabulous work you've done. Now the SAT and the ACT, so, several schools are test optional or test blind at this time. So those standardized tests may not be needed for admission. However, some scholarship programs may require test scores, and some majors may even ask to see, test scores. So it's a good idea to, if you haven't already started thinking about this, start to plan to take those tests in your junior year. If you take them early, then you do have some time in the fall of your senior year if you want to retake them. So the SAT and ACT, where they may not be, as important as they once were with several colleges and universities for admission. Again, we do look at them for some other reasons. So it's a good idea to prepare to take them. And then I usually tell families, think about taking both tests. Most colleges do accept both sets of scores, and you may find that you perform better on one versus the other. And several schools also use what's called a super score, where we make the highest total or composite score from the scores from different test dates. So if you have a couple of SATs, we can give you the highest total SAT with that. Some factors to consider when you are researching colleges is the next topic I'm going to talk with you about. So the first thing you want to think about are the academic programs. Does this institution have the major or the field of study that you're interested in? If you want to change your major, or if you think that could be a possibility somewhere down the road, are there options for you, and how easy of a process would this be? Location and weather. Do you want to be close to home, or do you want to be far away from home? Would you like to be in a warm climate, or are you more interested in cold climate? Do you like snow? These are just your basic things about location and weather, but definitely what you want to think about. Enrollment and the size of the school. Are you interested in a large school? Would you like to maybe go to a small school? Or do you want a school that's somewhere, in between, like a medium size? So enrollment at institutions can range anywhere between 700 students to 75,000 students. So you have to kind of do your research and really, know yourself and really know what's important to you and how that would make you feel. The campus setting. Campuses are in remote areas, campuses are in cities, urban areas. So, think about how important this is to you and which type of setting you want or you may like the most. And then campus safety. How safe is the college campus and how safe is its community? Because wherever you go, the community that the school is in is going to be your home away from home for a while. So you want to make sure that, it's a safe environment. A few other factors to think about: student life and extracurricular activities. What kind of student life on campus are you interested in? Is athletics important to you? Would you like to do research? WVU is a R1 research institution as well. And so there's lots of things you can do there. Do you want to be in an honors program? Are you interested in community service, hobbies or special interest groups, recreation, Greek life? I get asked about Greek life a lot. And organizations that are directly related to your program of study, some student organizations, all of these things you can think about and see what's available at each school that you're interested in. And then you definitely want to think about costs, scholarships, and other financial aid. And so, first let's talk about, public state schools. They assign residency for tuition purposes, and tuition is going to be less for their in-state students because of, taxes that their families pay. So consider that. Private schools, they do not assign residency for tuition purposes. Their costs may tend to be higher. However, they really, have great scholarship programs and other endowments and funds that they can give to their students, sometimes a little easier than the state schools can do. And then you want to think about other costs for housing, the meal plans, and then all the other direct and indirect costs that make up what's called your total cost of attendance. All institutions are required to have a net price calculator, and you can use that to get a great estimated cost for your total cost of attendance, rather. And it will also factor in, financial aid that you could possibly be eligible for. And then finally, what scholarships are going to be available to you? And then consider the scholarship deadlines and then the FAFSA deadlines for each of those institutions. All right, my next topic I'm going to talk to you about are your admissions plans. What's best for you. So there are different admissions processes that institutions have. There's early decision and early action. Both of these will allow you to apply early in the fall. Both have a specific deadline for their applications, but early decision is binding. So binding with early decision means you agree to attend the college if accepted, and if the college offers you an adequate financial aid package. You can only apply to one college for early decision, but you can apply to other colleges through the regular admissions process. If you are accepted to the early decision school, all other applications have to be withdrawn. And then with early action, it's not binding. You can apply early to other institutions, excuse me, and you have until late spring to let the college know your choice. And keep in mind, these processes are going to vary somewhat by institution. So research is very important to do that as soon as you can to find out exactly what you need and by when you need to do it. A couple other processes you're going to hear about is regular decision. And this is really just the normal process by which students apply by published deadlines. And the student is under no obligation to decide, if they want to attend. They can usually let the institution know about a common response date of May 1. And rolling admission is the other process that institutions use. Rolling admission colleges and universities generally start accepting applications early in the fall, and they usually do not have an application deadline. You're going to find out a decision within a certain amount of time, usually about a few weeks after all application materials have been received. And there's no specific date by which you need to notify the institution about your decision. And again, these things will vary a little bit by college. It is important to note with rolling admissions that while there may not be an application deadline, there typically will be other deadlines for scholarships, financial aid, and housing. So keep all of that in mind. So to determine what could be best for you, just figure out, do your research, narrow down the schools that you want to apply to. And then, really, if you're, really strongly interested in a school that's early decision and maybe you've always wanted to apply that way, then maybe that's the best path for you. If you're not sure, then you don't want to apply early decision because it is binding. So, think about the different processes, make a list of the schools and what their admissions processes are and their deadlines, and then kind of go from there to determine what could be the best route for you. The next topic is college visits and college fairs. So, you've probably heard this. If you haven't, you'll hear it now. The best way to, really get a good feel for an institution is to know if it's right for you is just to physically be on its campus. So we all have the virtual tours and, things that we offer like that, but you really need to physically be on the campus to get the full experience. So some tips for visiting. Ask questions, of course, bring all the questions you can think of. Take a guided tour of the campus. A lot of schools have self-guided tours, but you're going to learn more if you go on a guided tour and have a student tour guide. Speak with admissions and financial aid representatives while you're there. Plan to sit in on a class if that's something that's offered through the tour. Talk to current students, ask them what they like about the school and ask them what they don't like about the institution. And then explore the community. You know, again, the community that it's located in needs to be a nice area, and you want to drive around off campus and check that out too. And then college fairs, you know, have a game plan when you go to a college fair. You know, think of your top schools that you want to visit, their tables or their booths. You'll get a map at the fairs with your table location when you arrive. And then if you have a bunch that you want to see and you think you might not have enough time, then just divide and conquer, you know, with your family. And then again, come prepared with questions. If you're not already on the school's mailing list and you would like to be, you can fill out an informational card at the fair, or if they have a QR code you can scan, you can do that as well. And then keep in mind, you know that fairs can be very busy and the representative may not have time to have an in-depth conversation with you, but they will if they can. Take some information with you that you can check out later on. Most schools are going to have their general piece with them that just gives kind of a quick overview of the school. And then finally, don't limit yourself. You know, talk with small schools, talk with big schools, public, private. You never know what you're going to find out and what may pique your interest. And then finally, high school visits. You know, colleges and universities visit your schools each fall. You can check with your Career Center specialist to see when visits start and who will be visiting your school. And generally, the representative visiting your school is also the one who's going to be reading your application. So now you've made a direct contact with that person. And then come with questions, you're going to leave with answers. So that's it for me. That's my contact information. If you would like to reach out to me later on about anything, please do. And thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Sorry, having a few technical difficulties over here. The mouse is not wanting to cooperate. Give me just 1 second to share my screen. All right. So just let me get this to do. Actually do as a PowerPoint. So wanted just to give you quickly my contact information. Again, my name is Colin Alford. I am with Outreach and Recruitment, Office of Outreach and Recruitment, and work with a large number of schools within Fairfax County. Have my email address there. Wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the benefits of attending NOVA, how the application process for the community colleges differ from the four-year schools. The community college system in Virginia is open access, meaning everyone who applies is admitted to the school. That is regardless of residency status, citizenship status. We accept everyone. We also do not require SAT or ACT scores. We use those if a student has taken them for placement into their classes, but again, they're not required. Once a student submits an application to us, a student graduating from high school, they then complete what's called a direct enrollment survey where they self-report their high school GPA and highest math class. And we use that, as I mentioned, for placement into the English and math classes required for their programs. If we have had some students that maybe their GPA did not directly place them into English 111, but they had wonderful SAT scores. So that indicates that they are perfectly capable of doing the work. So we can use SAT or ACT scores to place that student directly into classes. We do not have an application fee, and we also have what is called rolling admissions, meaning that students can apply at any time for each semester, actually even up through the beginning part of the semester. The caveat to that, though, is the later you apply, the later you're going to be registering for classes, so you might not get the best choice of classes with the days and the times per se. One of the other things about Nova is that we are incredibly affordable. We are about the quarter of a cost of a four-year school. And for those students who are planning to transfer, it is very easy to take one of our transferable degrees and be able to then very easily slide those courses from Nova into that four-year degree program. We've worked very closely with the Transfer Virginia portal or Transfer Virginia group, and our transferable degrees, like I said, are really designed for you to complete that same first 2 years worth of core coursework at Nova and then transfer very seamlessly onto the four-year school of your choice. With those courses in the transferable degrees, students are going to be taking very similar classes than they've been taking in high school, their English, their math, their science, and then they're going to take what I call the foundational courses for their major. For example, if they're a business major, they're going to take their accounting, their economics, statistics, some business courses. But again, the bulk of them are going to be general education. For our students who are interested in going directly into the workforce, our career and technical programs offer a tremendous number of opportunities. We have what are called Associate of Applied Arts, Associate of Applied Science degrees, which are designed for students to complete in 2 years and be able to go directly into the workforce at either entry-level positions. The lists that are on actually both for the transferable degrees and career technical programs is just a sample of the different programs and options that we have. We do offer certificates, which take about 1.5 years to complete. And then some of our career study certificates can take a semester or 2 to complete. Those are really short-term skill building programs. And with the applied associate degrees, many students who are pursuing the applied associate degrees also earn certificates as they are working on completing their degree requirements. One of the special programs that we do offer, there's a list here. I'm really going to focus on or mention briefly the advanced program, which is a partnership we have with Mason that allows students to go ahead and apply to George Mason while they are at Nova. And if accepted, they don't have to reapply to Mason once they finish their degree at Nova. Again, a seamless process into the wonderful programs that Mason offers. The guaranteed admission agreement is very popular with students. I get asked a lot of questions about what we call lovingly the GAAs. They are agreements that are with 40 area colleges and universities. There are a couple of out of state, but there is if a student meets all the criteria in that particular school's agreement, then they are automatically admitted to that school. I tell students that the onus is on them to do the research for that GAA and the requirements because each one is a little different. It's not about GPA. A lot of students go, well, I'm just going to get a great GPA and I'm going to go to whichever school. Pick one. It doesn't matter. But the reality is that there are some other factors and criteria that they have to meet. So we just tell students to make sure that they're following those, to work with their academic advisor every semester and make sure that they're on track. We're also very fortunate that we have a lot of what we call embedded transfer representatives or admissions folks on our campus. At Annandale, they also travel around to the other campuses, so students can make great connections with those transfer counselors as well. I did have one other slide. I know I mentioned earlier about us being reasonably priced. I also wanted to mention that we have a tremendous number of student support services that are available for students. Everything from the Nighthawk Nest, which is a food pantry, to advising, to tutoring. In fact, every student who is registered in a class gets 2 hours of tutoring every week for that class. It is free for them. All of our campuses have robust student activities for students to get involved in. We very much want our students to be involved on our campuses, just like the four-year colleges are as well. Probably one other big difference is most of our classes are smaller. We say that the range runs from 20 to like 40. I've really not seen any classes more than about 30, which is similar to what most of the students are seeing currently in their high schools. We also offer scholarships and financial aid. So I think I have covered everything in my section. So I am going to stop sharing and turn it over to Ryan.
Hello, thanks for joining us tonight, everyone. Just another brief introduction. My name, Ryan Kirk, admissions counselor here at Old Dominion University. I'm originally from Northern Virginia. Actually graduated from South County in 2014. So happy to be here speaking with you all today. I'm just going to go in a little bit, talk about, how do colleges make decisions? What are different things that we look at when reviewing applications for applicants? I do want to preface this by saying, it's not a cookie cutter, one size fits all. Different schools are going to do things a little bit differently. So I definitely want to, make sure you guys are reaching out to the schools you're interested in. If you have any specific questions, their admissions offices are great resources to take advantage of. But first thing we'll typically look at when reviewing an application is the student's transcript. When reviewing a transcript, obviously we'll look at the overall GPA, but we'll also look at things like grade trends. So, maybe a student didn't start off so well as a freshman, but they've shown constant progress with their grades and it's continued to go up and up, or vice versa. Maybe a student started off strong as a freshman, and then that GPA, had a steady decline. That's certainly something we, take into account when reviewing a student's application. We'll also look at, what classes did the student enroll in? Did they take any honors, any AP, IB, dual enrollment, any advanced level courses? That's definitely a factor, we'll look at when reviewing a transcript as well. But in general, for ODU and most other schools, we do take a holistic review process of applications. So, anything that a student does include in their application will be considered when making that decision. For example, us here at ODU, we do not require letters of recommendation. It is an optional component of our application. But if a student does, decide to send those letters of recommendation, those will be taken into account when we review the student and make a decision on that application. Another question we tend to get a lot are what is the importance when it comes to, essays, personal statements. Here at ODU, that is, an optional component for us. But some instances, even when it's optional, where I would recommend that you, go ahead and submit that essay or personal statement. If there's, anything that we wouldn't be able to ascertain, about you as a student by looking over that transcript, anything you want to let us know, anything you want to tell us, about your student career, anything like that, that would be a great opportunity to utilize that personal statement space. And also, if you think you may be a borderline student, you're nervous about whether or not you'll be admitted, that would also be a great time, to utilize the essay or personal statement. Go ahead and submit that. Although we are, optional when it comes to essays and personal statements, there are schools out there that will be a required component for their application. If that is the case, a couple pieces of advice I would give, make sure if there's a prompt that you're following the prompt. You're answering, whatever questions asked, try not to stray too much from what they're asking from you. And also make sure to, double and triple check the grammar, when it comes to those essays. When you submit an essay, that's really the first introduction we'll have to, your writing style, how you write and, are as a student. So it's important to make, a good first impression. So just make sure, there's no misspellings, everything is correctly punctuated. Don't want to have any of those glaring, grammar issues, when a admissions counselor is reviewing that essay. I am going to touch a little bit, I know it's been mentioned earlier, but on SATs and ACTs. So there's going to be a wide range of schools and, what their requirements are. So, here at ODU, we are test optional, meaning we do not require that you submit the SAT or ACT in order for it to be admitted. But you'll also have schools out there, some are test blind, Some are going to be, required that you submit those test scores. Again, if you're not sure, if you're interested in the school, you're not sure what their policy is, just make sure to reach out, give them a call, send them an email. That way they can let you know. You don't want to pay to have your, test scores sent to a school that's not going to look at them. You don't want to not send your test scores to a school that requires them. So just making sure, you're touching base. A lot of this information should be on their websites. But if it's not, again, just give us a call. We're happy to let you know, what's expected. And even if you see schools, where it's listed as test optional, it can still certainly help with things like merit-based scholarships. So, at ODU, we can award a student a merit-based scholarship purely based on their GPA. But, if a student has a strong GPA and that's paired along with strong test scores, that could potentially raise the amount of merit-based scholarship that you will receive. So definitely something to keep in mind when you see that test optional. It can still be beneficial in some instances, to go ahead and submit those test scores. Last point I want to touch on for you all, another common question, how important really are those volunteer hours, clubs, sports, other extracurricular activities? What I would say, that's definitely something I would recommend submitting along with your application, especially if you have, any leadership roles. Definitely go ahead and submit that over. It helps give us a broader picture of you as a student, show us the things you're passionate about, shows you're well-rounded. And it can also help when it comes to financial aid, especially here at Old Dominion. One thing we recommend for all of our applicants is that you submit an activity resume. So anything you're doing outside of the classroom, jobs, clubs, sports, volunteer hours, anything like that, go ahead and submit that with your application. When we receive it, we send it directly to our Office of Financial Aid. That way they can look it over as well. When they sit down and put together that full aid package for you, they can see based on this list of activities, if there's any other scholarships, grants, any additional money, that students may qualify for. So it definitely helps to put together the most comprehensive aid package possible. But just to, in conclusion, make sure you're reaching out to these schools. It's better to, ask questions than, do something you're not supposed to do, pay to send transcripts or test scores somewhere that doesn't need them. We're here to help you guys, with any questions you have. So, we're always available. Feel free to give us a call, send us an email if you have any questions.
All right. Hi, everybody. Let me share my screen here with you. Alrighty. Awesome. Well, I am charged today with talking to you all a little bit more about financial aid and scholarships, and also just how to make a private school an option. Randolph-Macon is a private institution where I work, and so I'm excited to first just talk to you all a little bit about the difference between public and private colleges. First, when looking at private colleges, you will notice that they are funded through tuition fees, donations, and endowments. A lot of those donations and endowments are coming from alumni and friends of the college, whereas public universities and institutions are funded by the state government. So that usually leads to higher sticker prices for a lot of private institutions in comparison to the public schools. As you look at those, particularly, I'll say for Randolph-Macon, our sticker price is about $64,000 this year, but no one pays that out of pocket because of the different grants and scholarships that I'm going to mention a little bit from now, but we do try to get closer to those in-state, local, public institutions that are surrounding us, and many of them are closer to that, maybe 30,000 or below for that. You also will notice that many private institutions are just smaller school populations. I like to say we're small but mighty at RMC, as we have about 1,500 students, whereas a place like West Virginia or George Mason, as you were hearing earlier, they have bigger school populations. So it's all about finding that best fit for you. And then alumni networks. One of the things I love about RMC is that we are actually number 2 in the state of Virginia for alumni participation, meaning they aren't just giving of their financial resources, but also of their time. We see many of them come here to our campus, meet with students to mentor them, but also meet them back at home, or giving them the opportunity to come an intern with them or shadow opportunities in the fields that they are currently involved in. Not to say that those alumni networks are not happening at the larger institutions, but I just think there's more flexibility and also more connectivity on the smaller scale of having that at our private institutions. All right, we're going to get into the difference between the FAFSA and the CSS profile. So first off, the FAFSA is what majority of colleges and universities use as a way to see what federal institutional aid you actually, institutional and non-aid federal aid that you are actually qualify for. For the FAFSA, you will see that it is free to submit, whereas with the CSS profile, it actually costs money to submit those to schools. That's $25 for the first college that you send it to, and then about another $16 additional. So say you applied to 8 schools, that would be about $137. So that's something to be mindful of. It is being administered by the College Board, whereas the federal government, the Department of Education, actually administers the FAFSA, and the financial aid is determined by something called the Student Aid Index, or SAI, which is based off a family's income. And then you have about 300 different colleges actually doing the CSS profile that participate in that. So I definitely recommend checking those schools that you're looking into to see if that's something that they require, because it's both private and public institutions that may have the CSS profile. But I recommend everyone filing the FAFSA, as it is certainly that federal money that you want to receive, especially when it comes to work study or Pell Grants. Pell Grants are for students who demonstrate exceptional neediness when it comes to grants, but also it indicates to the said institution about whether or not they should, what other grants you would qualify from their school as well. I did put this in here as something to think about from families and students who come from divorced or separated parents, because the FAFSA and the CSS profile look at these differently. So in regards to the FAFSA, they look at something called the custodial parent. So this is somebody who you are living with primarily, and that is who they determine the financial need from. Or if it's a 50-50 split, as far as like you spend time with both parents pretty evenly, they'll look at, for both of these things actually, whoever makes the highest income. So that's something to think about when you're filing. Or if you have remarried, they will look at your new spouse for whoever that higher income family parent is. Whereas with the CSS profile, they do an assessment of assets for both the custodial and non-custodial parent. So that is a little bit more of a broader assessment of all your benefits and different things and assets that you have. The FAFSA must also be completed every single year to continue to get federal aid from the government and also from your institution. Whereas with the CSS profile, it really kind of depends on that said institution. So make sure that you are talking with the financial aid offices at those schools. The deadline for the FAFSA is June 30th, but each college usually sets a priority deadline. For us this year, that was February 1st before the FAFSA release date got pushed back. And so now that priority deadline is actually now mid-March. And so as we start to receive that information, we want to make sure that we give all of us enough time to get those financial aid notifications to you, but also allow you to ask the questions that you need. And then with the CSS profile, many of the institutions require those deadlines either in February or March. Talk a little bit more just about merit-based scholarships and the difference between that and need-based aid. So merit-based scholarships do not need to be repaid. They are typically not on financial need, but rather on the student's academic performance. As we assess students here on our campus, we look at their cumulative GPA after junior year in that first fall semester. And then as we go into spring semester, it's usually off of your first semester of your senior year. But that determines what type of merit-based scholarship. So like for this year, ours range from $23,000 up to $31,000 for our students. And that, like I said, is getting down that sticker price that we have. But also you will see that there are scholarship competitions or talent as far as like performing arts or Maybe you have something for languages or things like that. There's different merit-based scholarships. Maybe a program like a major has a specific scholarship as well that you can apply for at said institution. So definitely look for those as you are applying to schools. And then along with that, you will see that financial need is usually determined by the cost of attendance for said institution minus the student aid index when it comes to the FAFSA. So that will determine what your financial need and what grants from the government, and like I said, from that said institution that you are applying to. Grants are, once again, are things that you don't need to pay back, but are given usually federally. So the Pell Grants, the SEOG, which is a student-based one. Also the Virginia Tag, especially for Virginia residents, is something to look into. And that is usually freely given, and you can see in the acceptance letter for us here at RMC, but that is given to any Virginia resident who attends a private institution, which is at currently $5,000 this year. So that's great, once again, as something that just continues to bring down that overall price. But we then also have something called the Randolph-Macon Grant, which you will see in your financial aid notification, and which I believe many other institutions have that as well. Loans, that's where you get into those federal loans, which you will need to pay back after you leave said college. Usually you have either a direct subsidized or unsubsidized loan, meaning one accrues interest over time while you're in school, and then the other one doesn't start accruing interest until 6 months after you graduate, and will be off-put if you continue to go to other colleges. But it's something to be conscious of as you take out loans to pay for college. And then also some other alternative loans like the Federal Plus loan, which is actually the parent loan that you see many parents take out as a way to help their students pay for college. Financial aid notification timelines, just to kind of get an idea of how those work. In a normal year, the FAFSA would come out around or start filing around October 1. So financial aid notifications would start going out in late October, early November. With this academic year, we are seeing those, like I said, coming out. We'll start receiving them here in March, and they'll start going out at the end of March, early April at the latest. So those students will start receiving that information. But then as time goes on, overall, just financial aid either will come with your acceptance letter for certain schools, or maybe they'll notify you after they receive your financial aid of other merit-based scholarships. It really just depends on that said institution, but all offers are made after you have been accepted to said university. And finally, ask questions. This isn't this is more of a rhetorical thing, and not start asking questions now. But I do want to encourage you as parents, as students, to please ask questions. As much as we would love to be mind readers, it is not our gifts over here in the admissions world. But what we do want to be is great counsel to you and a great resource to you as you are making your college decision and making it a feasible option to you. So I always tell my prospective students that if you don't ask, you'll never receive. But if you ask, you might. So please make sure that you're asking those questions, advocating for yourself, but also budgeting. This is the time, parents, to really start budgeting for your students and starting to figure out what you all can pay as far as out-of-pocket costs for cost of attendance. But also please ask your counselors what other scholarship opportunities they have, because they have a resource of things of outside scholarships. I know here at RMC, those are stackable as long as they don't exceed the cost of attendance for you per year. So definitely apply to that Kiwanis Club, the Lions, any of those kind of things, and definitely reach out to your financial aid offices at said institutions. I'm going to hand it over to him, Pat.
So I am bringing us all the way back to getting to your questions this evening. So I will share my screen in a moment. I just got a few slides. My topics are going to be a little bit more conversational. But I think just to kick things off, the thing to focus on this evening that you've heard from pretty much all of our panelists so far is everyone does things a little bit different. So tonight's a great start as a resource. It's a great opportunity to take this momentum into those conversations you're being encouraged to have. But know that things like tonight are great summaries, and that's where it stops. You know, Olivia was just alluding to this year and the FAFSA update that we're all kind of on pins and needles for. And every institution is kind of developing their own threshold for what the reply by date is, which for normal seniors is May the 1st. This year, you've seen some schools extend to May 15th, some already extended into June, and it's evolving, right? So the core of what we do is to work with you all and make this a more personal process. So know that we are never going to just come and be rigid about every little thing, especially if you're starting with the conversation piece. For my topics this evening, I'm talking to you about the importance of some of the deadlines that you've been hearing about, talking about parent involvement, where the parent should take the lead versus when your student should take the lead. Letters of recommendation, just very quickly, decision notification, what happens if you get waitlisted, how do different schools handle that, and then finally making that college decision. So to go back to kind of where we started this evening, you heard from Mandy about the different types of decision deadlines with early action, early decision, regular decision, things like that. Your timeframes are you're going to see up on the screen, but you'll also see what the notification timeframes typically are. When you are applying and you know it's early action versus early decision, you're typically going to hear back from us, if not in December, usually in early January. I think the thing that's important about the expected turnaround times, the larger the applicant pool, the longer it takes for those reps to get through everything and make sure things are sent out. Some schools will send notifications out on a specific date. Others will roll decisions out as soon as they are ready to be viewed. So that's where you should ask questions in that application process to set expectations. Once upon a time, admission reps could make jokes about making best friends with your local poster workers and hanging out at the mailbox every single day, waiting for that physical admit letter to come. Now it's more about checking your inbox every hour and hitting refresh to see if the university has updated you on anything yet. If you ask us ahead of time, we can let you know when to expect that decision so you don't have unnecessary added pieces to this process that can stress some students out. The most important part about deadlines for me is that bottom piece. Scholarship deadlines, honors college deadlines, audition and portfolio review deadlines, the pieces that are when admission offices broadcast what our deadlines are, we don't always say which deadline is specific to what. A lot of institutions will have a scholarship deadline. Some will not. Some it's just automatic review for the entire time their application is open. Other institutions will have a very specific cutoff. And even if you're the top student in your school, if you don't apply by the right deadline, you've now taken an opportunity off the table for yourself. So scholarship deadlines are important, both internal to the institutions you're applying, but also alluding to what you've seen both Colleen and Olivia talk about is those scholarship applications and then your FAFSA deadlines matter for those things. So make sure that you're paying attention to those. Honors college deadlines, if you are interested in that honors college experience, which can be slightly different at each institution, honors college deadlines are typically earlier rather than your regular decision deadlines, which come in the spring. But then if you're getting into a program that is smaller, so on the slide, you see audition and portfolio review deadlines, but maybe you're applying to an institution that is very competitive for specific programs, maybe not for general admission, and those specific programs might fill up earlier rather than later. They are looking to take advantage of the excitement that these qualified students have, and then spots are being claimed, and then the later reviews might differ. So depending on where you're applying, being an informed consumer on what that deadline means to the major you're interested in and the type of opportunities you're looking to put on the table, deadlines can really make or break a difference for you. So moving on to the next piece, appropriate parent involvement. I think the main thing to know here is that we in the admission offices know this is a family decision. This is a very big decision. You can equate it to buying a home or a brand new car. Everyone needs to be involved. Everyone needs to be aware of what you're signing up for. But students, this is your process. Your parents are there to support you, counsel you, but they are not the ones attending class every day. So you as a student have to drive this process. Admission reps will talk to parents every day of the week. You know, students, we will let your parents advocate for you to a certain degree. But if we're being honest, when I'm sitting in my office, I'm going to respond much better to a student reaching out to advocate for themselves than a parent putting words into the student's mouth and advocating for them. It's fine to advocate. It's great to take advantage of things that your student might forget to mention in the application process. But this is that great opportunity to start that self-advocacy and make that the norm. When you talk about appropriate parent involvement, once your student becomes a college student, you have to be aware of what those cutoffs for the institutions state by state might differ a little bit. But when you look at FERPA and you look at the ability for a student to now be considered a legal adult, students, you are going to have to take that mantle and advocate for yourselves once you step into those college residency halls, when you step into those college classrooms. You are now in charge of this process. It's good to keep parents involved because when the bill comes due, that is usually the first call or email that happens. Please don't email your parents. But when you go through this process, parents, be informed, but encourage self-advocacy. That's a big thing that we're going to push. Letters of recommendation, you heard about it when Ryan was talking about the admission review process and how different institutions review different things. If an institution tells you exactly what they do with letters of recommendation, pay attention. Some schools will tell you they want it from a specific type of teacher. Maybe they want a specific type of person in your life, whether it be a boss, coach, tutor, something like that. But pay attention, because some schools will tell you they don't want letters of recommendation. No matter how many you submit, they won't read a single one. There are schools out there that do that. There are schools that will say, like Mason, we will only review 2, and we're going to review the first 2 that are submitted. So when you think about letters of recommendation, don't frame the conversation as quantity, frame it as quality. When you think about quality of a letter of recommendation, that's typically dictated by the strength of relationship between the student and the person writing. When you think about letters of recommendation, they are by default positive. They are there to showcase all of the great things about this student and what they're going to bring to that college environment that maybe the student hasn't already articulated in their essays. So when you're asking for folks to write you a letter of recommendation, think, what does this person and their, role in my life, what does their story say about what I've already said in my application, and what else can it add? How can it be an added piece of this puzzle that you were putting together and not something that's overly repetitive? We know what type of student you are. We're going to get your transcript. We know what type of involvement you have. You're going to give us a list of activities. We know your voice from your essays. So your letters of recommendation are there to fill the rest of that puzzle. But if we're being very honest with you, at Mason at least, and at many, many institutions, it is a small, small, small piece. It's there to help clarify. It's there to add context, make this more of a personable process. But your transcript is what we are reviewing to see if you are academically ready to take on that college curriculum. When you talk about time frame for college decision notifications, I showed you that slide a minute ago. The main thing to take away is the May 1st notification deadline. That's when seniors, you're making that final decision. Pay attention to what refund policies might be. Different institutions will have a refundable deposit if you want to claim your spot early. Some institutions will not refund deposits. So make sure you understand what that could mean. Most deposits are going to be one of 2 categories. They are going to be a portion of your first semester's tuition, or they're going to be an additional fee that then locks in your spot and everything that comes with it. One of the 2. So make sure you understand what that money means. And it really should, in all intents and purposes, be the school you're intending to go to, right? It's going to put you in a different communication plan. You're going to start hearing more about next steps in terms of registering for classes and getting ready for freshman year. So it does change the way you hear about the institution a little bit and the time frame in which you hear about it. So when you talk about making decisions, you have until May 1st. So take the momentum from tonight and continue to roll it forward. If by chance you happen to get waitlisted, pay attention to what the letter says. If they want you to claim a spot on the wait list, take that action and claim a spot. Then it's time to reach out to that admission counselor. Some schools will have a ranked waitlist where they're ranking students based off of their qualifications. Some students have, or some schools have a reply by date and they're taking students that took action the quickest. Some schools will do a total re-review, and some schools are waiting to see what type of updated grade you might be able to send, or if there's clarification needed on curriculum or outside of school question marks that we need clarification on. They're waiting to do another review. Getting waitlisted at some schools is very, very straightforward. We give you a process, you just follow it. At other schools, that waitlist, it might be a more of a deferred decision where they have a history of admitting 100% of their waitlist every single year as long as class space is available. Your college counseling offices can help you identify what a school typically does. Your admission reps can help you. But being an informed consumer in this process can make waitlisting a less stressful process, but always have a backup. Do not let those May 1st deadlines come and go, and you're still holding on hope that that Ivy League is going to take you, and now you've lost a space at some of the institutions that were second or third on your list. My last piece is how to make that final decision. This is a list of some sample things to consider. I'll be honest with you, anytime I present this slide, I don't go through each one because this is an example of a list that an admissions rep put together. This is what we think you should be thinking about. I think you should care about the three pillars, what a school can do for you academically, professionally, and socially. You should have all three of those pillars. But that list of what's important and why you're making a decision on a school should be one of the most personal, selfish things you've ever put together. A school has to check all of your boxes. And if it doesn't, that's when you look at other schools that might do it better for you specifically. I'm a Fairfax County alum. I know what the process is like. I know the pressure that's on you. I am a former Braddock graduate, so I know Fairfax County very, very well. And I know you're going to have options, but it's about you, not your friend, not your friend's friend, not your Google search. It's a personal process where you're going to have to live that life every single day. And if you, going back to that involvement with the parent, if you as a student are driving this decision-making process and you're having those important conversations early on, you can get to a point when you make that final decision, you feel comfortable, you feel good about it, and you're ready to go to Bed Bath & Beyond or Target or Walmart and get twin extra long sheets that you'll never use again for the entirety of your life. And then buy everything that says back to school on it in July and August. But have fun with this process. Try not to stress out. And if you need anything, admission offices are quite literally there to help you. So take advantage of us as you can.
All right, thank you very much. That I liked your twin sheets thing. That is very, very real. And put a smile on my face. So first off, thank you so much to all of our panelists. That was wonderful information. And I just kept sitting here nodding along, listening to all of you. And I appreciate everything that you have shared with our families. We did have a couple of questions come in. I'm going to go ahead and pull them up, and then Sandy, maybe depending on how I read these, I might ask you to jump in and alternate with me. We are not going to have enough time probably to have everyone address every question. So panelists, if I read a question and it sounds like, oh, I want it, please just speak up. Or if you have something to add as well, go ahead and jump in there. The first one that I see is asking about foreign language requirements. It says, what are the minimum foreign language requirements for your schools? If there are no requirements, is there a recommended course for students in high school, such as 2+2 language years or 4 continuous years of a single language?
So yeah, for us here at ODU, it's 3 years of one language or 2 of one and 2 of another. Students can be admitted to ODU without completing the language requirement. You would then just have to complete that requirement once you're in college. So if you didn't take any foreign language, while you're in high school, you would still be admissible. It would just add to the requirements once you're at ODU as to what classes you would have to take. So to fulfill that basic foreign language requirement for us, it would be 3 years of one language or 2 and 2. If not, you would just have to complete that once you get to ODU.
Yeah, at Randolph-Macon, we require 2 semesters of a foreign language. You can test out of those if you have taken an AP course. Threes are what we consider proficiency, and 4s and 5s are more fluent. So we will look at those. While we are test optional for those specific requirements, we will. But otherwise, yeah, 3 years of a foreign language in high school will also count for credit.
2 years are the required minimum for Mason, 3 years are recommended, as long as you're fulfilling graduation requirements based on what the standard diploma dictates, not the advanced diploma. Good to go for Mason.
Nova does not have any foreign language requirement.
Okay,
For
so the
admission.
next question. Oh,
Sorry, for admission. I figured I better clarify that. For admission.
The next question continues at the foreign language, and it's asking students who have taken the foreign language proficiency tests in Fairfax County and received credits for them, are they viewed any differently in the admissions process against students who have taken foreign language courses in high school for several years?
I can jump
Anyone
in.
have an answer? Okay.
I went back to review to make sure I heard you correctly there. Is if you're testing out and you're getting a requirement because you are fluent in a language, it's kind of like what Olivia was alluding to a second ago. There's a testing portion in your intake to an institution where we will then reevaluate what your proficiency levels are to make sure that as far as curriculum components go, we're putting you in a position to succeed. So there is a testing process. Now, as long as, going back to what I said, as long as you meet the requirements for graduation, that is all that matters, right? That's all that matters. So how you navigate that, different school systems are AP, different school systems are IB. Some school systems have a very limited resource in that, and they default to dual enrollment. So depending on your situation, we evaluate what's been done in the past. As long as the high school's recognizing it, you are good in Mason's eyes.
All right, awesome. Thank you. This one is about grades. So are lower final grades in more advanced courses, I get this a lot, and I'm sure you do too, like lower grades in an AP course or an honors course seen as being equal to or better than higher grades in easier classes? For instance, AP chemistry or biology versus honors or normal chemistry. Who would like to answer that one?
I'm happy to keep diving in. I think Sandy and Holly know I'm not shy here. I will say there are too many students, especially in this area, that take AP/IB dual enrollment. And it's for the sake of tallying the most of those courses they can get, despite what their academic strengths are. You want to find balance. In admissions, we are looking for a balanced transcript that showcases your ability to understand where your academic successes are and where you're not going to have attention pulled away from other curriculum selections, right? When I'm reading a student's transcript and then their essay, someone saying, I took too many APs, so I just failed that course or got a D in that course. That shows me that you're not ready to take on that college curriculum. So if you're applying to a STEM program, showcase your math abilities, right? If you're applying to a communications or a journalism degree, how you do an AP stat has no relevance in my admission review of you. We want to see that you're taking the requirements to graduate, but AP/IB dual enrollment, we just don't want to see straight A's in baseline curriculum with no rigor, but we don't want to see you get that magic number at the bottom of your transcript. But because you're getting C minuses, by the magic of weighting, that number on the transcript still reads as admissible. That's a red flag. So balance is the key here. Don't take it because you're trying to impress us. Do it because it's what you're interested in and it's what you can handle on top of being a well-rounded student, getting involved, doing things outside of the classroom. So it truly is a balance, but do not take these with the intent of, well, I'm going to do poorly in the course. I'll just make sure I do well on the exam. The exam is where you get college credit, and that's more for you. We're not going to see that in most cases for your senior year classes for admission purposes. So make sure you're focusing on the class, not just the end test.
And just to piggyback off that a little bit too, I know for our review purposes here, we are of course looking at weighted and unweighted courses as we're evaluating, but we still see if you have an F in AP Bio in your senior semester, which will make us hold for quarter grades because we still want you to be passing, even though you're at the finish line, because all of this is preparation for your first year here, but especially all your 4 years at your said institution.
Okay, so this question is actually about the Common App. And the question is, how has Common App changed college admissions? Are there now many, many more first-year applicants? It seems from news articles that colleges are deluged with applicants.
I mean, I'll keep diving in here. So not all colleges are on the Common App. You hear common, you think it's common for everyone. The Common App is a great resource. It allows you as a student to fill out your information once, and then you're focused on the different college individual sections, your add-ons. Our colleges up in applications, there's a lot of colleges this year that are reporting anywhere from 15 to 25% up. But what you're seeing is not just because of the Common App. The Common App makes it easier because it's streamlined. But what you're seeing now is we are coming back on that pendulum post-pandemic, where students are now opening up their lists. They're looking at what other schools might be a good fit. They're listening to their counselors at the high school or the admission reps, where we tell you, don't just pick a school because it's the one you keep hearing about from everybody else. You're doing it because you've done your research and you think it's a good fit for you. It is great to be on the Common App as far as the admission side goes, because we're there, we're in front of you, you can see us, and it's one less barrier that you have to take down. But when you look at the different types, you're going to see a lot of states right now are doing direct admission programs. You're going to see the Common App direct admission program. So you're seeing all these different pipelines. If a school wants to get in front of you some way, somehow, the application will be there, whether it's homegrown, direct admit, Common App, the coalition app that once was. You have all these different things, but don't worry, because we're still reading the same way. If you're admissible based on the standards we present to you when we're talking to you, that's what you're worried about, not how we got your app. It's what you presented when you hit submit.
Okay, real quickly, Mandy, there was a quick one on here that was asking you to go back to your college visit screen and your last screen. So I'm just going to default that to the recording. We will be sending that out as soon as we get it. Hopefully that's okay. They can then go back and look at your screen, okay? But there is another one here, and we will end with this question to wrap it up on time and be cognizant of everybody's time here. But tips for getting in-state tuition for an out-of-state college. Gap year question mark. So I figured, Mandy, you could probably address that there's really no magic formula, but I'll let you take it.
Yeah, I mean, at least for ODU, if you haven't been in Virginia, living in Virginia for a year or more, it's going to be, I mean, that's really the way to get in-state tuition, is to be in the state for a year or longer. We do have like a review process that we'll go through where you can submit different documents and different things like that. But it would be, you know, at least for us, residency in the state for a full year prior to enrolling.
I'll add on to that if by chance it is due to a military move, most schools will recognize that, and you don't have that 1 year time period that you have to wait. So most folks who are military are considered in state, but definitely check with the schools to see what their requirements are.
Yeah, because at WVU, as an out-of-state institution, you simply can't be there for a year and then expect to get in-state tuition. You have to have established a permanent residency for a year, and you cannot be enrolled in any West Virginia college or university while you're establishing residency. So if you want to take a gap year and move to West Virginia and get your license and pay taxes for a year, you know, really become a true West Virginian so you can pay into those higher education institutions that are funded by the state, then you can get in-state tuition at WVU. But it's certainly different through different states. So you should always ask that question. We do have a residency section on our website, and our residency officer does review case by case. So there may be some other things that would allow you to possibly get in-state tuition other than just the general 1 year being a permanent resident. But you really have to look at the fine print, especially with us. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you. Viewers, I can see that there are more questions coming in. I would ask, or I would encourage you, if you're a South County family, please reach out to me. If you're a Lake Braddock family, please reach out to Sandy. We want to make sure that you feel supported throughout this whole process and you get your questions answered. As all of our panelists have said too, like, do not hesitate to reach out to the admissions office for the college if you have a good question for them. I want to give a plug. The Northern Virginia Regional College Fair is coming up April 10th. It's at George Mason. That's a great place if you have a bunch of questions where you can kind of, like Mandy said, be strategic and get a lot of answers in one evening. If you have a question that is very specific to your child, then I would encourage you to please reach out to their school counselor as well, if it's about their courses that they're taking, to include them in the conversation. But otherwise, thank you again. As a reminder, I will be sending out this video hopefully in the next couple of days to everyone. And I wish that you all have a really good evening. Bye.
Bye, go Stallions.